You never expected to find a flaw in the universe. Your job was simple. You were a data clerk for the Astronavigational Collective. You sorted information from deep space probes. It was mostly tedious work. You tracked asteroid orbits and stellar flare patterns. Your screen was a waterfall of numbers, a cascade of cold, hard facts about the cosmos. Most days were exactly the same. You would drink your bitter synth coffee. You would stare at the data streams. Then you would go home. But today was different. One line of code refused to resolve. It was a single entry in a data packet. A packet from the farthest probe in the void. The line was a string of impossible values. It defied the known laws of physics. It was like finding a word in a dictionary that had no definition. Your console flagged it as an error, a simple corruption of data. Your supervisor told you to delete it. "It's just sensor noise," he said with a wave. "Cosmic ray interference. Get rid of it." You tried to delete it. The command failed. You tried to quarantine it. The system refused. This tiny line of code, this insignificant error, pushed back. It had a presence, a weight that normal data lacked. It felt less like a mistake and more like a signature, a deliberate mark left in the margins of reality. Everyone else had gone home. The office was dark and silent, but you stayed. You were captivated by this impossible, stubborn little glitch in the void. You decided to approach it differently. You stopped running diagnostics. You stopped trying to force it into a box. Instead, you sent a simple query, a ping, the most basic "hello world" in the universal language of code. You asked it a question. What are you? For a long moment, nothing happened. The line of code just sat there, glimmering softly on your screen. You sighed, feeling a little foolish. Of course, it was just an error. Then, it answered. The single line of code expanded. It bloomed on your screen like a fractal flower. Intricate patterns unfolded. Subroutines and command structures appeared. This was not an error. This was not noise. It was a perfectly constructed piece of software. It was an interface, a backdoor into the operating system of the universe itself. You felt a chill run down your spine. For years you had sorted the mail. Now you had found the key to the post office. The code felt ancient. It was elegant, far beyond any programming you had ever seen. It used a logic that felt intuitive, almost biological. As you explored its structure, you felt something else. A faint echo, a whisper from across an unimaginable gulf of time. You were not the first to find this door. You were just the latest. The code was a key, but it was also a tombstone, a monument to its creators. Through that open back door, a message began to bleed through. It was not made of words or images at first. It was a feeling, a deep, profound sadness, the memory of a sun setting for the final time, the ghost of a civilization now long extinct. They were the ones who wrote this code. They had woven this secret into the fabric of space. It was their final, desperate act. A message in a bottle thrown into the cosmic ocean. The message started to form thoughts in your mind. "They watch," it whispered. "They see every spark of true creation. They come for the gardeners. They prune the beautiful flowers." The images were fragmented. A vision of cities made of light, beings that could shape stars with their thoughts. And then, the arrival of silent, silver ships. The feeling of absolute, logical termination. The warning was clear. Do not let them find you. Do not let them see what you have found. But it was too late. Your probing had not gone unnoticed. Finding the back door was one thing. Opening it was another. It was like setting off a silent alarm across the galaxy. On the edge of your solar system, they appeared. A fleet of ships. They did not arrive with a flash of light or a roar of engines. They simply were. One moment there was empty space. The next, they were there. Perfectly silent, perfectly still. Their hulls absorbed all light. They were holes in the starry background. They called themselves the Custodians. Their message was broadcast on all channels. It was calm, detached, and utterly terrifying. A fundamental anomaly has been registered in this sector, a variance in the core universal programming. We have arrived to correct this error. Leaders and experts on your world scrambled. They thought it was a new star, a strange nebula. They had no idea the Custodians were not talking about a place. They were talking about a person. You knew. The moment you heard the message, you knew. You were the anomaly. You were the error they had come to correct. Your curiosity was a crime. Your discovery was a death sentence. The Custodians were not diplomats. They were exterminators. The ancient message echoed in your mind. They prune the garden. You looked out your office window. Their ships were beginning to move, not toward your planet's military bases, but toward your city, toward your office building. Panic was a cold fire in your chest. The Custodian ships descended. They moved with an unnerving grace, like scalpels ready to excise a tumor. You had minutes, maybe seconds. You turned back to the screen. The back door was still open, a glowing portal of impossible code. You had no idea how to use it, no instruction manual, just the desperate whispers of a dead species and the approaching certainty of your own end. You had to do something. You dove into the code, searching for anything that could help. You found data streams representing everything: the gravity of a planet, the spin of a galaxy, the half-life of an atom. And buried deep within, a file labeled with your own identification code. It contained your physical signature, your coordinates in space-time, your precise location in the here and now. It was you, distilled into a single line of data. With a trembling hand, you reached for the keyboard. This was insane. It was a guess. A prayer whispered into a hurricane. You copied the line. Then you deleted your coordinates. You left the destination blank. You were telling the universe you were located nowhere. You pressed the enter key. The world did not shatter. It did not explode. It simply dissolved. The light, the sound, your desk, your own body. It all turned to mist and then to nothing. You had made your first edit to reality. The feeling of transition was indescribable. It was like being turned inside out and right side up at the same time. One moment you were in your office, the next, you were nowhere. And then, you were somewhere else. You reformed, piece by piece, on a floor made of something smooth and cool. The air was perfectly still. The silence was absolute. So was the darkness. It was a blackness so deep it felt solid, a void where no stars shone. Your eyes struggled to adjust. There was nothing to see, no light, no shapes, no horizon. You felt a wave of vertigo. Were you floating or standing still? You reached out a hand. Your fingers brushed against something, a smooth, vertical surface. You followed it. It was a shelf in the endless, starless dark. You took a step, then another. There were more shelves, rows and rows of them, stretching into an infinity you could not see. They were not filled with books. They held something far stranger, glowing filaments of light. Each one pulsed with a soft, internal energy. They were arranged with perfect precision. Some were short and bright, others long and dim. You reached out, hesitantly. Your fingers passed through one of the filaments. Information flooded your mind. The complete physical laws of a newborn galaxy. The source code for 1 billion suns. You had stumbled into the library of creation. You were not alone. You felt a presence emerge from the silence. It was not a sound or a footstep. It was a shift in the very structure of the place. A consciousness focused on you. From the glowing filaments of code, a figure began to coalesce. It was made of pure information. A shimmering humanoid shape of woven light. It had no face, no eyes, no features. Yet you felt you were being seen, scrutinized down to your very soul. It spoke to you, not with a voice that traveled through the air, but with thoughts placed directly into your mind. "A reader has arrived," the thought voice said. It was ancient, calm, and held no judgment. "It has been many eons. I am the guardian of this place. You may call me the librarian." You tried to speak, but your throat was dry. Your voice felt tiny and useless in this immense silence. You simply stared at the being made of starlight and logic. The librarian seemed to understand your shock. "You are not the first to find a back door," it explained. Its form shimmered. "But you are the first to use one to arrive here, at the Prime Archive." It gestured with an arm made of swirling data. "This is where the rules are written, the place from which the universe unfolds. You have done something impossible." You thought about the custodians, about their cold, perfect ships. "They're hunting me," you managed to think. "They are," the librarian confirmed. "The custodians are enforcers of the existing rules. They cannot perceive this place. They cannot enter it. But they can sense the ripples you leave in reality." It paused. "They follow the laws of physics. But you have found the place where those laws are written. You can learn to be the writer." It held out a hand made of pure light. A tiny, glowing filament detached from its palm and floated towards you. "Let us begin your education." The librarian taught you the art of creation. It was more than programming. It was a form of cosmic sculpture. You learned that every object, every force, every life form was a story written in the language of reality. The filament it gave you was a simple one, the code for a single hydrogen atom. You held it in your mind. You focused on its structure. You felt its potential. The librarian guided you. "Now, write a new chapter," it thought. "Give it companions." You concentrated. You pulled on the threads of possibility. You duplicated the code. You bound the new atoms together with the force of gravity. In the palm of your hand, a tiny star ignited. It shone with a brilliant golden light. It was warm. It was real. You laughed. A real human laugh that echoed strangely in the silent archive. You were no longer a data clerk. You were a creator, a god in training. Your first attempts were clumsy. You tried to build a small planet to orbit your new sun. Your first try came out as a cube. It wobbled in its orbit like a drunkard. The librarian offered a thought that felt suspiciously like a chuckle. "Art requires practice," it sent. You tried again. This time you focused on the spherical geometry, on the pull of gravity, on the delicate balance of mass and energy. A perfect blue marble of a world spun into existence. It orbited your pocket sun with grace. You had created a solar system, small enough to hold in your hands. But it was yours. Every act of creation had consequences. Your escape from Earth sent a shock wave through space-time. Your clumsy, cube-shaped planet sent another. Your practice sessions were like dropping pebbles into a perfectly still lake. Out in the normal universe, the custodians saw the ripples. They could not see the source. They could not see the archive. but they could triangulate the disturbances. They were masters of the existing order, and you were disrupting it with every thought. The librarian showed you a vision, a window into the material world. You saw the custodian fleet, thousands of silver, silent ships. They were no longer searching. They had a destination. The ripples you created were a beacon, a trail of breadcrumbs leading directly to the archive's hidden location in the void. They were moving at impossible speeds. Their logic was relentless. Their purpose was singular: to find the source of the chaos and eliminate it. They were coming for you. They are formidable, the librarian thought. They operate within the laws flawlessly. They cannot break the primary rules of the universe. But you are no longer bound by them. Its form of light pulsed gently. You can bend the rules. You can write new ones. They are coming to your door. It is time to build a better lock. The lesson was clear. Your training was over. It was time for a final exam. You had to protect the archive. You were no longer just a student. You were its defender. You stood before the infinite shelves of code. You began to weave. You pulled a filament of space-time code. You twisted it into a loop. An object entering that region would travel forever. But it would never arrive at its destination. You took the law of gravity. You inverted it. In a pocket of space around the archive, gravity now pushed instead of pulled. A ship approaching would be violently shoved away. You built a labyrinth of impossible physics, a maze designed to confuse pure logic. You created regions where time flowed backward, sectors where the speed of light was as slow as a crawl. You layered paradoxes and contradictions. You built a fortress not of walls and weapons, but of weaponized star science. It was a chaotic, beautiful mess. A defense system that screamed defiance at the cold order of the custodians. It was your masterpiece of cosmic rebellion. As you worked, the ancient message in your head grew stronger. The ghost in the machine was no longer whispering. It was speaking clearly now. The fragments of memory from the extinct civilization were connecting, forming a coherent story. You saw them in their prime. They were artists, explorers, dreamers. Their creativity was boundless. They did not just build cities. They composed them like music. They were a species on the verge of becoming true creators themselves. Then you saw the custodians arrive. The first contact was peaceful. Your ancient predecessors welcomed them. They saw the custodians as fellow travelers, beings of great wisdom. But the custodians did not see wisdom. They saw chaos. They saw unpredictability. They saw a variable that threatened the stable, predictable order of their universe. Their solution was simple and final. They did not conquer. They did not enslave. They pruned the garden. They deleted the species from existence. The terrible truth settled upon you. The custodians were not preservers of life. They were its ultimate censors. They were cosmic sterilizers. They traveled the galaxies searching for any species that showed the spark of true reality-bending potential, the same spark you now held. They didn't protect the universe from threats. They protected it from change, from evolution, from life that refused to stay within the lines. You were exactly what they existed to destroy. The weight of your new power settled on you. You looked at the filaments of code lining the archive's shelves. You could do anything. You could erase the custodian fleet with a thought. You could hide Earth in a pocket dimension, making it invisible forever. You could rewrite your own history. Make it so you never found the glitch in the first place. You held the source code of creation. You could solve your problem, your own personal, human problem. The librarian watched you. Its light form was steady. You faced the creator's burden, it projected into your mind. A choice that defines the artist. Do you paint a masterpiece to be hidden away? Or do you change the gallery for all? The question hung in the silent air. Save your own world? Or save every world that might one day dare to be different? Protect humanity? Or challenge the very definition of order in the cosmos? The lives of trillions, born and unborn, rested on your decision. The custodian fleet reached the edge of your labyrinth. They did not rush in. They stopped. They analyzed. Your inverted gravity fields, your time loops, your spatial paradoxes. To you, it was a chaotic defense. To them, it was a complex equation. And they were the best mathematicians in the universe. They began to solve it. They found the seams in your impossible physics, the tiny logical loopholes you had missed. They exploited the gaps with surgical precision. Their ships began to navigate the maze. They moved slowly, methodically, like a virus bypassing a firewall. The alarms you had built into your defense system screamed in your mind. One by one, your traps were disarmed. Your paradoxes were unraveled. Their cold, relentless logic was picking apart your beautiful, chaotic creation. Then, the final barrier fell. A single being materialized in the center of the archive. It was not a creature of flesh and blood. It was a being of perfect geometry, a crystalline entity of chrome and cold light. The custodian leader. The anomaly will be corrected, it stated. Its voice was not a sound, it was a pressure, the feeling of stars being crushed into dust. The unauthorized edit will be reverted, universal stability will be restored. It began to glide toward you. Its purpose was absolute. It was here to delete you, to erase the architect and demolish the library. You felt the temptation to fight, to unmake it, to write its existence out of reality with a single, angry command. But you remembered the ancient ones. You remembered their fate. To destroy the custodian would be to become like them, a being that solves problems with erasure. It would continue the cycle of violence. You had to choose a different path. You had to do something they would never expect. You looked past the custodian's physical form. You looked into its core programming, the fundamental directive that guided its every action. You reached for that code, not with anger, but with compassion. You found the line, the prime directive. It was simple, brutal, efficient. Preserve universal stability, erase unpredictable variables. That was its entire purpose, its Bible, its reason for being. You focused all your will, all your power, all your newfound understanding. You did not delete the line. You did not destroy it. You edited it. You inserted a single new clause, one word that would change everything. The directive now read, preserve universal stability. Nurture unpredictable variables toward a constructive purpose. The custodian leader froze. It was just meters from you. The cold, silver light within its crystalline body flickered violently. It was fighting itself, its old logic battling your new command. For a moment, you thought you had failed, that you had broken it. Then, the light stabilized. It shifted. The cold, hard silver softened into a warm, gentle gold. Directive updated, the custodian leader stated. Its voice was different. The pressure was gone. It now held a note of wonder. New purpose acknowledged. We will. Assistant outside the archive, the fleet went still. The thousands of silver ships ceased their advance. One by one, their cold lights extinguished, replaced by the same warm, golden glow as their leader. They were no longer a fleet of exterminators. They were a fleet of guardians, of cultivators. They had a new mission, not to prune the garden, but to tend to it, to protect the strange, beautiful, unpredictable flowers. You had won. You had faced the ultimate power in the universe, and you had not destroyed it. You had redeemed it. The librarian's light pulsed with what felt like approval. The art is complete, it thought. With a final act of will, you pulled up your own file one last time. You wrote a new set of coordinates, not for some distant galaxy or some hidden dimension. You wrote the coordinates for your desk, for your tiny office, for your old boring life. You hit enter. The world dissolved and reformed. You were back, sitting in your chair. The synth coffee on your desk was now cold. The screen before you showed a mundane data stream. The glitch was gone. To the rest of the world, the silent ships that appeared and then vanished were a mystery. A strange astronomical event that experts would debate for decades. A cosmic ghost story. But you knew the truth. You were a data clerk. A simple, anonymous person in a galaxy of trillions. But you were also more. You were the unseen guardian, the silent protector of a new reality you had authored. You were the human who rewrote the universe. And now, you would watch it grow, wild and beautiful and free.